Most people spend their entire lives waiting for something dramatic to happen, a lottery ticket win, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a sudden breakthrough that will instantly transform everything. They imagine success as this giant, overwhelming leap, like jumping across a canyon in a single bound. But here's the secret. Your future doesn't change in giant leaps. It changes in small, almost invisible shifts. And sometimes, just one simple shift in how you think, how you act, or how you see yourself can completely rewrite the direction of your life. This is the shift nobody talks about, because it's so deceptively small, so unglamorous, that most people overlook it. But it's this very shift that separates those who remain stuck year after year from those who move forward with unstoppable momentum. Think about it. Look back on your own life for a moment. You can probably trace where you are right now back to a series of small decisions, not massive ones. The job you took, the person you dated, the time you decided to quit too soon or stick with something a little longer, none of those felt like life-changing events in the moment. But stacked together, they shaped your path. And the scary part is, most people are living unconsciously, making these tiny decisions on autopilot, without realizing they're steering their lives in directions they don't even want. That's why people wake up at 40 or 50, feeling trapped in jobs they hate or relationships that drain them. They never made one huge mistake. They just failed to make one powerful shift. The truth is, your brain is always searching for efficiency. It wants you to survive with as little energy as possible, so it builds habits, patterns, routines. And once those are set, you start living inside them like invisible walls. You don't even notice you're trapped because you call it normal. You think, this is just who I am. But it's not who you are, it's just who you've trained yourself to be. And the simple shift that will change your future begins the moment you realize that who you've been is not who you have to stay, that your past does not have to dictate your destiny, that your identity is not fixed in stone. It's flexible, moldable. You can rewrite it. And that realization is like breaking a lock you never even noticed was chained to your potential. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people, same background, same environment, same resources. One believes, I'm just not the kind of person who can build wealth. The other believes, I don't know how to build wealth yet, but I can learn. Both of them will live into their beliefs. One will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity because deep down they don't see themselves as capable. The other will lean into growth, make mistakes, and eventually figure it out. The only difference between their futures isn't luck, it isn't talent, it's that one simple shift in identity. One sees themselves as limited, the other as adaptable, and that difference compounds into a radically different life. Now I know what you might be thinking. It can't be that simple. But ask yourself, what's been holding you back? Is it really the lack of resources? Or is it that you've been holding on to a story about who you are and what you're capable of? Because here's the painful truth. The strongest prison you'll ever live in is the one built by your own beliefs. And most people will spend their entire lives decorating their prison cell instead of breaking out of it. They'll rearrange their schedule, change their environment, blame their circumstances, but never confront the fact that the bars are in their mind. That's why they stay stuck. That's why they repeat the same year over and over again. They're waiting for something outside to change, when the real shift needs to happen inside. This is why people chase quick fixes, new diets, new jobs, new relationships, new cities. They think a new external environment will magically fix their internal programming. But wherever they go, they bring themselves with them. And until they shift their inner story, nothing on the outside will stick. You can hand someone the perfect opportunity, the perfect partner, the perfect blueprint, but if their inner identity doesn't align with it, they'll find a way to sabotage it. That's why you've probably seen people win money and lose it, land amazing partners and push them away, start projects with excitement only to quit when it gets hard. It's not bad luck, it's misalignment. They haven't made the shift. So what exactly is this shift? At its core, it's moving from being a passive victim of life to being an active creator of it. Most people live in reaction mode. They respond to what happens, they complain about circumstances, they wait for permission. The shift is realizing that you have agency, that your choices today are shaping your tomorrow, that the story you tell yourself about who you are will either imprison you or free you. And once that clicks, it's impossible to go back to sleep. You see every action differently. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "Who do I need to become to do this?" That single shift changes everything because it forces you to live consciously instead of unconsciously. It pulls you out of autopilot and into deliberate creation. And yes, it feels uncomfortable. Your brain will resist it. It will scream, "This is unsafe, this isn't me." But that discomfort is proof you're rewiring your future. Think of it like going to the gym. The first time you lift a heavy weight, your muscles burn, your body protests. But that burn is growth. It's a signal that your future self is being built. The same is true with identity shifts. It hurts at first because you're stretching beyond what you've been conditioned to accept. But if you push through, you unlock a version of yourself you never thought possible. That's when opportunities that once seemed out of reach suddenly become accessible. That's when life stops feeling like a cage and starts feeling like a canvas. So let me ask you, what's one area of your life where you've been living on autopilot? Where you've been repeating the same story about yourself? Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your finances, maybe it's your relationships. What if instead of telling yourself that's just how it is, you shifted to, "This is what I've trained myself to believe, but I can untrain it. I can choose differently." That's where the future begins. Not with massive leaps, but with that one powerful shift. Because the future isn't created in the distance, it's created in the present. And if you want to change it, you don't need a miracle. You need a shift. One simple, conscious shift. If you've ever felt like your life is stuck on repeat, like no matter what you do you keep running into the same walls, it's because you haven't made the internal shift yet. You've probably tried changing your schedule, your habits, even the people around you. And maybe for a while it worked. You felt a spark of motivation, a burst of energy. But then, like clockwork, you slid back into the old patterns. Why? Because you were fighting the symptoms instead of the root cause. It's like cutting weeds from the surface instead of pulling them out by the roots. They just grow back. The real shift isn't about changing what you do, it's about changing how you see yourself. It's about pulling out the root of the identity that has kept you locked in the same cycles. This is the part most people miss. They think success is about strategies. Read this book, follow this morning routine, copy this productivity hack. But here's the painful truth. You can't out-strategize a broken identity. You can put the most disciplined system on top of a self-image that doesn't believe, and it will collapse every time. Imagine someone who sees themselves as a procrastinator. They can set alarms, block distractions, create accountability groups, but deep down they'll keep finding ways to delay because their identity is fighting against their system. But when that same person makes the shift, when they stop saying, "I'm a procrastinator," and start saying, "I'm someone who takes action quickly," everything else changes. Suddenly the strategies work because they're aligned with the new identity. The external follows the internal. This is why the shift is so powerful, it compounds. It doesn't just change one area of your life, it changes all of them. Think about confidence. If you shift from believing "I'm shy and awkward" to "I'm someone who can connect with people easily," it doesn't just affect conversations. It affects opportunities, relationships, even careers. People respond differently when you carry yourself differently. And once you see proof that the new identity works, it reinforces itself. That's the loop you want. Identity shapes action, action shapes results, results reinforce identity. Most people are stuck in a negative loop. The shift allows you to break out and build a positive one. But let's get real. This isn't about reciting affirmations in the mirror and pretending you're someone you're not. You can't just say, "I'm successful" 10 times and magically become it. Your brain is too smart for that. The shift has to be backed with action, with evidence. You don't need to fake it. You need to prove it to yourself. And the way you do that is by stacking small wins. Every time you act in alignment with your new identity, you give your brain evidence that it's real. If your shift is from "I'm unhealthy" to "I'm someone who takes care of my body," then every time you choose water over soda, every time you go for a short walk instead of collapsing on the couch, you're casting votes for the new identity. Each choice is a brick in the foundation of your future. And soon, the shift becomes permanent because your brain can't deny the evidence anymore. Here's the part that stings, though. Most people know what shift they need to make. Deep down, they already know the identity they've been clinging to that's holding them back, but they resist it. Why? Because the old identity is comfortable, it's familiar. It feels safe even if it's destroying them. Your brain will always choose the discomfort of the known over the uncertainty of the unknown. That's why people stay in jobs they hate for decades. That's why they stay in toxic relationships. That's why they numb themselves with distractions instead of facing the truth. They're afraid to let go of the old story because what if they fail at the new one? What if they try and prove themselves right, that they really are incapable? That fear keeps them trapped. But the irony is, the longer they cling to the old identity, the more certain failure becomes. The only way out is through the shift. So here's a simple exercise to spark it. Ask yourself, who would I be if I stopped telling myself this story? Write it down. Picture it vividly. Imagine walking through a single day as that version of yourself. How would you talk? How would you walk? How would you handle challenges? The clearer you make that vision, the easier it becomes to step into it. Because your brain doesn't just follow logic, it follows imagination. It can't always tell the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's real. That's why visualization works, why athletes use it before games, why performers rehearse mentally. When you imagine the new identity in detail, you're programming your mind to accept it. And when you combine that with consistent small actions, the shift becomes inevitable. But here, where most people quit, they expect the shift to happen instantly. They think one decision should erase decades of programming. It doesn't work that way. You've been reinforcing your old identity for years, through words, through habits, through choices. It's not going to disappear overnight, but it doesn't need to. The shift doesn't happen in a lightning bolt, it happens in a series of sparks. Each spark is a small choice. Each choice is a vote. And over time, those votes add up to a new reality. That's why consistency beats intensity. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. You just need to keep making decisions that align with the future you want, until eventually it becomes who you are. Let me give you a real-world example. There was a man who wanted to quit smoking. For years he tried and failed. He used nicotine patches, gum, hypnosis, nothing worked. Why? Because every time he was offered a cigarette he'd say, "I'm trying to quit." And what does that identity say? It says, "I'm still a smoker, just a struggling one." But then one day he made the shift. When someone offered him a cigarette, he said, "No thanks, I don't smoke." Do you see the difference? One identity is fighting against old habits. The other has already let go. And the moment he changed the story he told himself, his actions followed. He never touched another cigarette again. That's the power of the shift. It's not about pretending, it's about deciding who you are and living from that place. And yes, it takes courage, because the moment you shift, the world will test you. People around you may mock you, doubt you, even try to pull you back. Not because they hate you, but because your growth threatens their comfort. When you change, you force others to face the fact that they could change too, and many aren't ready for that. So they'll try to anchor you to the old version of yourself. They'll say, "You've changed," like it's a bad thing. But that's the point. You're supposed to change. If you don't, your future will look just like your past. And the only way to escape that cycle is to embrace the shift, even when it makes others uncomfortable. So let me ask you, what story are you still telling yourself that's keeping you stuck? What identity have you accepted as just who you are, when really it's just who you've been trained to be? And what would happen if today, right now, you decided to make the shift, to stop fighting against your future and start stepping into it? The truth is, your entire life could look different just 1 year from now if you made that choice today. That's how powerful one simple shift can be. There's a hidden danger in waiting for the perfect moment to change. Most people think they'll shift when things calm down, or when they're ready, or when the timing is right. But let me give you a painful truth. The perfect time never comes. Life will always be messy. There will always be bills, responsibilities, unexpected problems. If you're waiting for calm seas, you'll be waiting forever. The shift has to happen in the middle of the storm because that's where it has the most power. If you can shift when everything around you is chaotic, when you feel unprepared, when the odds look stacked against you, that's when you know it's real. That's when it sticks. Because it's not about changing under perfect conditions, it's about becoming the kind of person who can thrive under imperfect ones. Think of all the people who made dramatic changes in history. Rarely did they start from comfort. They started when everything was against them. They didn't wait for guarantees. They shifted in uncertainty, in pain, in struggle. And that's what gave them strength. You don't build resilience by avoiding the storm. You build it by facing it and proving to yourself that you can stand in the rain without drowning. So if your life feels chaotic right now, if you feel overwhelmed, don't see that as a reason to delay the shift. See it as the perfect training ground. Because the truth is, the person you want to become doesn't exist in some future where everything is easy. They exist right here, right now, in the choices you make today, under the exact conditions you're living in. Here's another painful truth. Your environment may never encourage your shift. If you're waiting for support, for people to cheer you on, for everyone to understand, you'll be waiting a long time. Most people won't get it. They'll look at you with skepticism. They'll question your motives. They might even discourage you, not because they want you to fail, but because your desire to change shines a light on their decision not to. And that makes them uncomfortable. So here's the mindset you need to adopt. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for applause. The shift isn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's about proving it to yourself. If you keep waiting for external validation, you'll never move. But when you find that fire inside, when you decide that your approval matters more than anyone else's, you become unstoppable. Because you're no longer chained to their opinions. You're driven by your vision. Now let's talk about resistance because it will show up the moment you start shifting. You'll feel it in your body, the hesitation before making a decision, the excuses that flood your mind, the sudden distractions that seem urgent. This isn't a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're right on track. Resistance is proof that you're leaving the comfort zone. Think of it like a thermostat. Your brain has been programmed to operate at a certain temperature, a certain level of effort and belief. The moment you raise it, alarms go off. Your brain says, wait, this isn't who we are, go back. That's why people relapse, quit, or sabotage themselves just as they start making progress. But if you understand this, you can push through. Instead of seeing resistance as a stop sign, see it as a milestone. It means you're growing. It means you're on the edge of something new. And if you can stay there long enough, eventually your thermostat resets. What once felt impossible becomes normal. That's the shift solidifying. Think about the gym again. The first time you lift weights, your muscles burn. You feel sore the next day, that's resistance. If you quit, you'll never grow stronger, but if you push through, your body adapts, it recalibrates. The weight that once crushed you becomes easy. Life works the same way. The resistance you feel when trying to build a new identity is just the soreness of growth. It's not a signal to stop, it's a signal to keep going. Because beyond that resistance lies freedom. Beyond that resistance lies the version of you who is no longer chained to the old story. And once you've broken through once, you realize you can do it again and again. That's how you build momentum. That's how you make the shift permanent. Now let's confront another brutal truth. The shift will require sacrifice. You can't step into a new future while clinging to everything from the past. Something has to give. It might be comfort, it might be habits, it might even be people. And this is where most break down because they want change without loss. They want to grow without letting go. But it doesn't work that way. You can't hold on to who you've been and expect to become who you want to be. Imagine trying to climb a ladder while gripping a heavy suitcase. You'll never get far. At some point, you have to drop the baggage. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels like a piece of you is being ripped away. But what's on the other side is worth infinitely more than what you're giving up. Let me give you an example. Say your shift is from "I'm someone who avoids discomfort" to "I'm someone who embraces challenges." That means you may have to sacrifice evenings spent scrolling on your phone or weekends spent numbing yourself with entertainment, because those choices reinforce your old identity. They feel harmless in the moment, but they're stealing your future. When you let go of them, you're not just losing comfort, you're gaining freedom. Freedom to become the kind of person who doesn't run from growth, but runs toward it. And that shift in how you see sacrifice is what separates the masses from the few who actually transform. Most people see sacrifice as loss. The successful see it as investment. You're not losing comfort, you're investing it into a stronger, freer future. And yes, people will notice. They'll notice when you stop showing up to the same parties, when you stop indulging in the same habits, when you stop laughing at the same jokes. Some will call you boring or arrogant or obsessive. But here's the truth. They don't see your vision. They don't feel the fire burning inside you. They don't understand the shift you're making. And they don't have to. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your choices. You're the one who has to wake up in your skin, live in your body, face your future. And if sacrificing short-term comfort means building a long-term life you're proud of, then it's worth every moment of discomfort. That's the perspective shift that changes everything. Stop measuring decisions by how they feel today, and start measuring them by how they shape tomorrow. So let me ask you again, what shift is waiting for you? Maybe it's as simple as changing one word in your story, from "I can't" to "I haven't yet," from "I'm not that kind of person" to "I'm becoming that kind of person," from "I'm stuck" to "I'm in transition." Words matter because they shape beliefs. Beliefs shape actions, and actions shape futures. The shift doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be deliberate. Because one simple shift in your identity, reinforced over time, can completely alter the trajectory of your life. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need permission, you don't need luck, and you don't need to wait for the perfect time. You just need to decide. And once you do, your future begins to move in a new direction, one you chose instead of one chosen for you. Here's something most people will never admit to themselves. They already know what's keeping them stuck. It's not a mystery. Deep down, you know the habits, the excuses, the fears, the stories you repeat that chain you to the same reality. You know them because you feel them every time you try to step forward. That hesitation, that voice that whispers, "Not you, not now, not possible." That's the old identity, desperate to hold on. And the painful truth is, many people will listen to it for the rest of their lives. They'll silence their dreams just to stay comfortable. They'll trade their potential for familiarity. And they'll tell themselves stories like, "It's just the way things are," or "I'll change later," until the clock runs out. But if you're listening right now, it means you don't want to live like that. It means something in you knows you're capable of more. And that knowing, that spark, is all you need to ignite the shift. So let's get practical. How do you make this shift stick? First, you declare it out loud to yourself. Stop saying, "I'm trying." Stop saying, "I hope." Start saying, "This is who I am now." Language matters. The words you use are programming your brain every single day. When you shift your language, you shift your identity. From there, you back it up with evidence. Not grand gestures, not overnight transformation, small, consistent actions. Every choice is a vote. Every action is proof. If your shift is to become someone disciplined, then each time you get up when the alarm rings, you're reinforcing it. If your shift is to become someone confident, then each time you speak up instead of staying silent, you're reinforcing it. The key is consistency, because consistency rewires the brain. It teaches your subconscious that this isn't just an idea, it's reality. Second, surround yourself with alignment. You can't expect to make a shift if everything in your environment screams the opposite. Look at your circle. Are the people around you reinforcing your old identity or supporting your new one? If they're dragging you back, it doesn't mean you need to cut everyone off overnight, but you do need to limit exposure. Because whether you realize it or not, you become like the people you spend the most time with. If you want to become disciplined, spend time with disciplined people. If you want to become ambitious, surround yourself with ambition. If you want to think bigger, talk to people who live bigger. The shift becomes easier when your environment supports it instead of sabotages it. Third, learn to see failure differently. Most people think failure proves they aren't good enough. But the truth is, failure is just feedback, it's information. Every time you fall short, it's not evidence that you're broken, it's evidence that you're learning. And if you can reframe failure as fuel instead of proof, you'll never stop growing. The shift doesn't mean you'll never stumble. You will. You'll make mistakes, you'll feel resistance, you'll want to quit. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of failure, it's their response to it. They don't see failure as the end, they see it as part of the path. And that perspective keeps them moving forward while others freeze. So when you fail, remind yourself, this is not a sign to stop, it's a signal to adapt. Fourth, commit for the long game. The shift isn't a one-week challenge, it isn't a quick fix, it's a lifetime decision. That doesn't mean it has to be overwhelming, it means you're choosing a new direction that you'll reinforce day after day. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. If you keep stacking wins, if you keep voting for your future self, 1 year from now you'll be unrecognizable. And the best part, it won't feel forced. It will feel natural, because the shift will no longer be something you're trying to do, it will be who you are. That's when you stop chasing change and start living it. That's when the future bends in your favor. Now let's zoom out. Think about your life 5 years from now. If you don't make this shift, where will you be? Be brutally honest. Will you still be stuck in the same routines, the same cycles, the same frustrations? Will you be carrying the same regrets, wishing you had started sooner? Most people underestimate the cost of staying the same. They think change is hard, but staying stuck is harder. It costs your dreams, your health, your joy. It eats away at your confidence and replaces it with regret. But now imagine the opposite. Imagine making the shift today. Imagine 5 years from now, looking back, realizing that everything changed because you made one decision, one choice, one shift. Imagine the pride of knowing you didn't settle, you didn't stay chained, you broke free. That's the power you hold right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Here's the final truth. Nobody is coming to do this for you. No guru, no mentor, no friend, no family member. People can guide you, inspire you, support you, but they cannot shift for you. That's your responsibility, and it's also your gift. Because the moment you realize that nobody's coming to save you, you discover that you already have the power to save yourself. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need to wait for the perfect conditions. You can decide right now in this moment to rewrite your story. And when you do, your future changes instantly. Not because the outside world shifts, but because you shift. And when you shift, everything else eventually follows. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop wishing. Stop telling yourself the same story you've been repeating for years. Decide, make the shift. Choose the identity that aligns with the future you want and start living it today. Because one simple shift, reinforced daily, has the power to completely transform your life. Not in some distant future, not in theory, not in fantasy, but in reality. Right here, right now. This is your moment. This is your chance. And the only thing standing between you and the future you dream of is the decision to shift. So take it, because when you do, you'll look back one day and realize that was the moment everything changed. Not because life handed you a miracle, but because you chose to become the kind of person who creates them. And once you make that shift, your future will never be the same again.